So welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Thank you, Jack. Nice to see you. Look at that lovely beard you have. That's a work of art.
You know what? I'm going to share with you a little. So we're having a little bit of a chat before we started. So I had a very meaty beard up until about 3 weeks ago. It was a real kind of accomplishment. And the one show, I'll just tell you about the squid shoot. I filmed a piece for them last year, but my beard was really short. And they said, well, if we're gonna do the pickup shoots, you need to shave your beard. And I went, oh, I'd rather
continuity beard.
I know, and I was like, well, I'd rather not, because I've put a lot of work into this hefty badger on my face. And they said, well, it's either that or we have to reshoot everything. I went, oh, all right then. So I shaved my beard reluctantly, and then they cancelled the shoot. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I had to
lockdown. Is it a lockdown beard then?
No, because I shaved it when I got married, which was a year ago. So it was a year's worth of growth. So I got married in November last year, and I hadn't shaved since then. So it was nearly a year's worth of growth. And then
that's really impressive, because I can never get through that itchy stubble period. I've permanently got a 5 o'clock shadow.
Okay.
But when I get to that really, really itchy stage, I cannot bear it. And people say, if you want a beard, you just got to work through that itchy stage and then it's fine. But I can never get through the itchy period.
Yeah, I mean, it's pure laziness. It's not because I'm a hipster or what. It's just because I don't like to shave. So that's the only reason I've got a big. It does come in handy when you're out in the wild as well. Keeps the wind off you and whatever. So there's a practical use to beards, definitely.
And also as well, there's little bits of food get caught there. If you get hungry, you can just snake your tongue out and just finish off the crumbs.
There's always something in there. You know, you might find a bit of Victoria sponge or a bit of chicken. It's great. It's a whole meal in there. Well. Anyway, we'll not talk about
some wildlife.
Yeah, let's talk about some wildlife. So, where did your career start in wildlife presenting then?
In wildlife presenting.
In presenting, yeah. Let's go straight for that.
Right. I thought you were going to ask, where did my career in wildlife start? When I was about 6 or 7. I was working, Jack, in Ecuador. I got a degree in biology at Nottingham. I've got a degree in ecology at Bangor, and after my degree in Bangor, I'm trying to remember now. After my degree in Bangor, I spent basically 5 years in the tropics working as a biologist, which was an amazing experience. I spent 6 months in Ecuador, a year and a half in Vietnam, a year and a half in Tanzania. So I'd basically done New World, Africa, Southeast Asia. And then I came back and thought, well, I'd love that. I want one more trip abroad. Where should I go? And I went back to Ecuador. And I was working as a resident biologist in the cloud forest of Ecuador. And I loved it there. It was amazing. So people think of South America, they think of the Amazon. And of course, the reason the Amazon there is because of this huge, big mountain chain called the Andes that runs like a backbone along the whole of the west coast, really, of South America. And I was working in these forests at altitude, forests on slopes. So the Andes is like a big letter M, if you will. So you've got the Pacific side, and then you go up the cloud forest side. Then you go into the Inter-Andean corridor where Quito is. Then you go up the eastern side into the Oriente. So you've got the Occidente on one side and the Oriente on the other, and then 3,500 miles of Amazon rainforest. So I was working halfway up the cloud forest slopes on the western side, on the Occidente side, at about 1,200 meters to 2,000 meters. And that's the world epicenter for orchids, bromeliads, hummingbirds, tanagers, things like that. And loved it, frankly, going birding all the time and working as a resident biologist at a place called Maki Pakuna, which was sponsored by a British charity called Rainforest Concern. And I was doing my research work on birds. I was teaching the guides English so they could help tour lead as well, and running research projects for scientists who are coming there. And Channel 5 back in the day were making a series of 10-minute films called Eco Warriors, all about British people in the back of beyond doing cool stuff in relation to wildlife. So they got a hold of me. This is, I think, when was this? 94, 95? They got a hold of me and said, could we come out and make a 10-minute program about you and your work in the cloud forest in Ecuador? And I said, sure. And I'd never done television before at all. So this crew came out, a chap called Rob Sullivan, who's the director, and a cameraman. I'd never really kind of met a cameraman before, a kind of cool guy who puts a camera on his shoulder and wafts
Yeah.
on
They're a
wafts
weird
about
bunch.
glorious light. They are a weird bunch. They're a gnarly bunch. And then the funny thing about cameramen and sound recorders, they're called husband and wife, really. The husband's the cameraman and the wife is the sound recordist. I don't quite know why that is. I don't think it's pejorative. So the sound recordist is attached by a long umbilical cord, and he had his boom pole and a microphone on the top with a big fluffy surround. And he would say things like, "Oh, glorious sound. Just recording wild track and clear for sound." And we spent a couple of days wandering around the reserve, filming all the wildlife, some of the hummingbirds. We managed to film a tamandua, which is a small anteater, and lots of birds. And the time came to film me. And he said, "Right, Mike, we're going to interview you now." So there I was in the cloud forest. And he said, "It's obvious you're into your birds." I'm like, "Yeah, I like my birds." And he said, can you talk about some of the birds in the cloud forest here in Ecuador?" I said, yeah, no problem. He said, can you maybe do an impersonation of one or two? And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll give it a go." And he said, "Oh, right, okay, let's when I say action, then can you just go for it?" He said, "Clear for sound, turn over the camera, okay, action." And I said, "Right, there's a bird called the Andean cock of the rock here at the cloud forest. It's a lekking bird. So dawn and dusk is when it displays. The males are amazing. They're bright fuchsia pink all over with a huge, big orange crest. They've got white eyes, black and silver wings, and yellow legs and big white eyes. That's the males. The females are dull, boring, and dowdy. But as we all know, the females totally rule the roost. So every day, dawn and dusk, they'll go to an ancestral lekking tree to display. So there's 10 or 15 males, all got their various perches. And the males start flapping their black and silver wings, and they're going, and then a female turns up and their crests go up and they're all displaying, going, "Look at me, look at me." And the female's just watching them and she just goes, "Whatever," and flies away. And all the males are a bit downbeat and downcast.
As you would, yeah.
As you would be, of course, not having kind of got your ornithological end away. And all of a sudden another female turns up and they go for it again. So I did this impersonation and the director, Rob, was, "Right, any more?" And I said, "Oh yeah, there's a fantastic bird called the toucan barbet. It's not unlike the cock of the rock, the male and female look identical, but it's like it's been designed by the great evolutionary painter himself. He's got his beret on, he's got a palette of paints, and he's got a broad outline of a bird, and he mixes it up, and he black cap and a silver bill with a black tip, and then he washes bush out in terps, and he's got a beautiful ruby red throat going to an orange upper breast, going to a lemon belly. It's got a blue rump, olive green wings, and a slate grey tail. It is a Bobby Dazzler. And so the birds do an antiphonal duet. So it's ever so sweet. They stand next to each other on the branch, and the male looks at the female, and the female looks at the male, and the male goes, "Ah," then the female goes, "Ah," and as they make the noise, they jump up and down. So they start off slowly, they go, "Ah, ah, 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 ah." It's like an ambulance in the rainforest, Jack. And then all of a sudden they disappear and go and make some eggs. So I did an impersonation of these two birds, and the guy said, "Have you thought about a career in telly?"
And that's where it all began.
Well, yeah, I came back to the UK and got a few jobs. One hilariously was as a life model. So I thought, well, I'm a naturalist. I might as well be a naturist.
Yeah, it's not far apart.
I just had to raise some money because, I mean, we all know conservation, your rewards will be in heaven, but you don't earn very much money.
No.
So I came back, took my clothes off for a living for a while, and raised some money, and then eventually moved down to Bristol. An old friend of mine from my first degree, Nottingham, is a producer. He was the series producer, Mark Flowers, up until very recently.
Yeah, I know Mark. Yeah. He likes his fish as well.
He's very keen on fish. He's got amazing tanks. I'm just very envious of your tank behind. Mark's got about 4 or 5 tanks, and me and Mark have known each other since the 80s. So I moved into Mark's spare room, and wheedled my way into television. And I, bizarrely, on that one pitch tape, I got work very quickly as a presenter on Channel 5. So I did a couple of 1 hours for Channel 5 and a series. And then Channel 5 said, thanks, Mike. Thanks a lot. Don't call us, we'll call you. And we've all been there, Jack, haven't we? Our first brutal lessons in television.
Yeah.
So I got a job as Bill Oddie's researcher, and I worked as Bill's researcher for about 1.5 years on the very early incarnation of Springwatch, which is called Wild in Your Garden, and also on Bill Oddie Goes Wild. And then the one show came my way, and I had a screen test, and I got the job. And 450 films, and 15 years down the line, I'm still making it happen, just about.
What I might do, Mike, because I can hear rustling. I don't know if it's when your hands are moving around, if you're hitting the mic, your headphones. So I might just take your headphone out.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because I don't want to impede your enthusiasm by you using your hands, but I think that might help. What was that? Sorry.
That unusable.
No, it's not unusable. It's just, to be honest, the podcast is all a little bit rough and ready anyway, but it's just every now and again there's a little crack. So I don't think, well, we'll see. If it keeps happening, then it's something else. But no, that's fine. I wouldn't make you do all that again, don't worry.
Okay.
But
good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one long answer. I mean, I give shorter answers to the rest, but there's no easy way to do that.
No, I appreciate that. You, and I'll edit all this out, of course. You mentioned Nottingham. Then have you got any old Nottingham haunts in terms of nature reserves? I don't mean the bars that you went to. I mean more.
Well, I got a 2-2 in my chosen subject, but I got a double first in birding and birding. So basically, when I was a kid, Jack, unfortunately it's a podcast, so you can't actually see the book I'm looking at. But I'm showing Jack my original first ever bird watching book. It's Bruce Campbell's Guide to Birds in Colour. It's got 256 different beautiful portraits from Carl Lager, Tingerland, and I'm holding up to Jack the my signature, age 9. So this is my first bird watching book. It's got beautiful pictures. Oh,
lovely! Yeah.
And I still have enormous attraction to that book. So when I first started bird watching, I thought I was the only kid in the world interested. It was before internet and before social media, where you can find your tribe online. And I went to university, and I suddenly found loads of other people who were into birds. And basically, I just went twitching the whole time. So I booked off loads of lectures, and I was either birding by day, bunking off lectures. I was birding in nightclubs.
I see what you did there, Mike. I see what you did there.
Oh yeah, I was just basically I spent certainly the first year either twitching or going to nightclubs.
Yeah.
And then half of the second 2 years either bird watching or going to nightclubs. But Attenborough I love. I know Attenborough very, very well. And I've been up to the Welbeck Dukeries to look for honeybuzz on a number of occasions. So I know a lot of the sites. Sherwood Forest I know pretty well. I'm very good friends with Indy Kemal, actually. I'm sure who you know. Indy Kemal Green, who's on.
Indy, the young. Yeah, he's been on the podcast. Yeah. He showed me some lesser spotted woodpeckers a couple of years ago. Great kid. Yeah, really enthusiastic.
Fantastic. Yeah, really good. He's a really good birder. Oh,
yeah, he is.
I know his mum and dad very well. His mum is a shepherdess for the Nottinghamshire Wildlife Trust, and I met him via his mum, having interviewed his mum, all about how they use sheep to graze some of the Sherwood Forest lands there, for the vegetation really, and to kind of keep the bracken down and for the kind of floral diversity. And so I know Sherwood Forest very well as well. I mean, it's an incredibly rich county. I remember going doing 24-hour bird watches in Nottinghamshire, and we had nightingale back in the day. Is nightingale still in Nottinghamshire?
Oh, not that I'm aware of. I'm not really in with the birdie-wordy crowd in Notts, but I suspect
you're in with the fishy-wishy lot, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's just me. It's just me. As far as I'm aware, we don't have nightingales, or if it is, it's a very well-kept secret. But I to be honest, I mean, they're pretty. I was almost going to say you did a book. Did you do a book on nightingales? Is that right?
Yes, I did. Nightingales in November.
I nearly thought. I thought, oh God, I'm going to Stephen Moss, Mike. I'm going to mix up a book with. I don't want.
My wife actually has just gone out and is having a cup of tea with his wife.
Oh, really?
So Christina's just left about 15 minutes ago, which is why I was late to click on the Zoom contact to you, and you had to email me, going, Dilger, where are you?
I get a little. But
yeah, I'm very good friends with Stephen.
Yeah.
So he lives very close, actually. He's the other side of the Mendips on the Somerset Levels. No, and he's prolific. He's a prolific author.
He
Now, I
loves
did
a
a book
book.
called Nightingales in November, which is following 12 British birds throughout the year. Some winter visitors, some summer visitors, some year-round residents. So yeah, I know quite a lot about the nightingale because I did a huge amount of research work and finding out all about where they go to in West Africa. What an amazing bird.
Isn't it? I'm going off on a tangent now with this, but isn't it like there's a motorway or something? Because I remember Gary Moore, the sound guy, he did a film for, I think it was one of the Watchers, but there's a motorway somewhere down south that's meant to be good for them. I don't know if that came across your lap at all, or
motorway in the UK.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure there's like
okay.
I think there's a service station, and for some reason that's good for nightingales. That was one of the places that sprung in my head. But
I always think of kind of Kent, Sussex,
okay.
Suffolk, and Norfolk is the epicenters, but they do come to Gloucestershire. So I go and see them in Gloucestershire. Hilariously, Jack, there's a really famous site called Hynham Woods, which is managed by the RSPB, right on the edge of the Forest of Dean. It's the most westerly area you can hear them. But also as well, it was in various papers because the car park is a dogging site.
Oh yes, I know it well. Yes, yeah, I know it well.
There you go. And also as well, I mean, you know, I've never gone dogging, and I'm very happily married.
Okay.
But we all know, well, most of us know that dogging happens at dawn and dusk. And when do nightingales sing at dawn and dusk?
Yeah.
So basically, the RSPB had to close the car park, and we had to park there miles away, and I had to walk my son down this incredibly busy road, and to get into it was really dangerous. I was thinking they're flipping doggers going to kill my son.
You need a water pistol with some cold water or something, and just get out of there. Calm down.
Each to their own. I'm a very libertarian type guy, but I'm not with the impinge on my bird watching.
No. Crack on, but don't ruin my birding. That's the main thing. So a lot of people will obviously know you from the One Show. How much input do you get into the films that they do? Is it a case that they go, Mike, you're doing this today, or is there a kind of back and forth where you're like, oh, I thought about this. What do you think?
A bit of both, really. They come to me going, we'd like you to do a film on slugs in Bristol, which I'm delighted to do.
Yeah.
Or minke whales in West Scotland, which I'm equally delighted to do. I generally don't care what they give me, because there's always something interesting to find. I mean, you know, Jack, wildlife, the more you know, the more you realise there's lots more to know. And I mean, I love to learn about slugs in Bristol, and I love to learn about minke whales off West Coast of Scotland. But also as well, I put forward a lot of ideas. I basically filmed for the One Show last Saturday. I'm giving your podcast an exclusive. I interviewed His Royal Highness Prince Charles.
Wow.
And it was my idea, my contact. I'd met him at a Plant Life anniversary, and I've met him a couple of times before. And I pinged off an email I managed to get his press secretary's email, get in there. And I pinged an email saying, would Prince Charles like to go flower spotting with me? Because I'm a bit bored with birds. I quite like them, but I'm much keener on plants.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a bit as well. We will come on to that.
I know you're very kindly going to give my book a plug, which is lovely of you. So I'm writing a book about wildflowers, and I wanted to try and get Prince Charles in it. And he was too busy, and his father unfortunately passed away at that time. So they said, we would love to do something with you. And he said, Prince Charles is really keen on country crafts and hedgerows and hedge laying. And so they contacted me out of the blue a few weeks ago when I was up in Scotland and said, would you like to come and do this gig with Prince Charles? And I interviewed him last Saturday, and it was brilliant. He's really charming. And also as well, I mean, he's a past master he's like me and you, he could talk all day long about anything and everything, but he was really on a passionate subject. So in that respect, I was pushing an open door.
Oh,
and I was given a 10-minute slot with him, because he is a very, very busy bloke. But he loved it. I mean, like 20 minutes later, we're still going on. And the press secretary was kind of getting slightly antsy. But Prince Charles was fine, so I was fine. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. So I'm still doing the One Show. So I pitched lots of One Show ideas. For example, all manner of things. I mean, I pitched an idea a few years ago about seeing Britain's last butterfly, which is the checkered skipper.
Okay.
So they said yes. So I went to West Scotland and filmed it. It was fantastic. So maybe out of the 450, I've maybe got commissioned, I don't know, maybe 80, 90, something like that. But I kind of know people who know people. So I'm always in a position to kind of pitch ideas because someone comes to me with an idea. And also as well, I get involved in the development and ideas with the production companies. So in that respect, it's I have quite a lot of input, but also, they come to me and say, would you do this?
Yeah.
I will say yes.
I guess that's quite nice that you can bring stuff to them, but also they'll just say, we think Mike's best for this. Let's crack on and do that. Yeah. So that's pretty good. And as well as the presenting on our TV screens, you also do tours. So are you only doing UK tours, or are you doing anything abroad as well?
What kind of tours do you mean? Sorry.
Well, so like as in like you'll take people out bird watching, won't you, with a company?
Oh, sorry,
or something?
wildlife tours.
Wildlife tours. Yeah.
Sorry, Jack. My bad.
I didn't mean like a tour. I didn't mean like a red bus in London, like you're showing them all the site. Like, and over there's Big Ben, like you wearing a Beefeaters outfit or something. No, I didn't mean that.
I had images of me filling the O2. I could barely fill my own bedroom these days. But no, I do lots of wildlife tour leading. I mean, probably back in 5 or 6 years ago, wildlife presenting was kind of my main gig. I did a few talks, and I did quite a bit of writing. But I mean, there's not as much wildlife presenting work around, and I've got no trouble with that. I mean, it's a crowded marketplace. Certainly during COVID, there wasn't much telework at all. So a lot of presenters like myself, Nick Baker, Yolo Williams, Chris Packham, and we all know each other. We're all going really well, actually. I see Yolo and Nick a lot up in Scotland, and we get on great. I mean, genuinely, I really, really like the presenters because we've got a common passion. It's like me and you. It's like, I like wildlife. I like talking about wildlife. So what's the issue? So I do a lot of tour leading. Yeah, I tour lead for Wildlife Worldwide, or as they call the Travelling Naturalist is the brand underneath. And I tour in the Somerset Levels, close to home. And I also tour in the Highlands of Scotland, where you're going for the new year. At the famous Grand Arms Hotel.
Cracking hotel.
Which is the kind of uniquely styled wildlife hotel. So I've just spent 3 weeks there doing a celebrity guided trip. And then 2 weeks with Wildlife Worldwide. So basically, I do anything that's sea level or anything that's really high. I do nothing in between. But yeah, I love it. I love tour leading. It's like showing people. It's like television. It's like television. And television, I'm getting passionate on a camera. And on wildlife tour leading, I'm getting passionate in front of 7 or 8 or a dozen people. And so I've just spent 3 weeks finding golden eagles, white-tailed eagles, red squirrel, otter, pine marten, crested tit, not finding capercaillie. But I love it. I'm being paid to look at wildlife. Get in there.
What do you do? You might not want to give away your secrets, but what do you do if the wildlife aren't playing ball? Is it go to a whiskey distillery, or like, is there a backup plan? Like,
there is a lot of whiskey up there. Unfortunately, I can't stand it.
Oh, really? Oh, right. No, I love it.
I'm an ale man.
Oh, okay.
Ale and red wine.
Yeah, because Scotland. I don't want to slag off Scottish beer too much, but they're not known for their ale, are they?
Cairngorm Brewery, Jack.
Yeah, I've tried it.
Oh, pint of Trade Winds. What's wrong with you?
It's okay.
Pint of Trade Winds in the bar.
It's better than tap water, but I mean, I'll drink. I like whiskey. Yeah, I love Scotch, and I love my Talisker and more smoky, peaty whiskies. But
Lagavulin.
That's too much. That's like that's where like you're drinking diesel more or less at that. But just a little bit of smoke. But no, I mean, like, I'm spoiled in Nottinghamshire. Weird enough talking about beer. I did a beer podcast with your mate Graham, and we did a whole.
We're ex-mate from university.
Yeah, he came over to my house, brought a load of beer. It was great, and we just did a podcast about how he started and had a few bottles of his lovely off the notebook. Is it off the notebook or from the notebook? From the notebook.
They've all got lovely names for wildlife names for beers, haven't they?
Mm.
I mean, I love it when it's a small world, when it's someone you interview, someone I went to university with. I mean,
you always know. There's always a connection, isn't there? There's always a I
mean, when I was filming at the weekend, the one guy knew the guy who delivers my logs really well, and then there's a chap there who goes, "Oh yeah, my family lives in Chew Valley," and my boy is friends with his grandson at school, and they're really good mates at school. I mean, I love that. It's just like connections. 7 degrees of separation is beautiful. What were we talking about? I can't remember.
It was we were talking about leading tours, and we've gone on to whiskey and connecting with people. But let's go to a slightly different.
Tour leading. I love tour leading, and there is a certain pressure, as you said. There's a certain pressure to find stuff, but I mean, there is pressure. But I feel pressure when I'm wildlife filming, and if you're there at the right time, right place, then and use your field skills, there's a good chance you'll get most of the stuff. I mean, every single tour I managed to get golden eagle. Sometimes I miss white-tailed eagle. I always get red squirrel. I always get crested tit. Capercaillie is flipping impossible because they're just disappearing. But I get black grouse. So I know the areas really, really well. The one curveball is if the weather's really, really bad, then it makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
So but then you can go to the coast where the weather's a bit more robust. And I found as well, actually by being a better botanist, Jack, because most people are going for the birds and mammals, let's not beat about the bush. But actually when there's bugger all to see, I go, oh, look at that, chickweed wintergreen. And that is bilberry, but the locals call it blaeberry. So there's always a supporting artist. You can always kind of bring in other stuff in. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Do you know, you meet really, really interesting people. Everyone as a tour leader talks about the difficult people they met or they've been with. I've never had a problem. I mean,
you're lucky. You're lucky.
Of industry. I meet doctors, lawyers, surgeons. They're really, really interesting people. Yeah. So generally we have a real laugh, and I get a lot of repeat business. They like hanging around with me, and they come up for more.
Yeah, and that's what you want ideally. And you mentioned plants there, so this is the perfect segue to plants. So you've recently done a book, 1000 Shades of Green. What was the idea behind finding 1,000 different plants in a year? And I think it was just was it just your local patch as well, or was it the whole country?
It was the whole country.
The whole country. Okay,
I haven't written it yet.
Oh, you haven't written it yet? Oh, right, okay.
I'm using this winter. Okay. When I'm not doing things like podcasts, you're stopping me writing the book at the moment, Mr. Perks. No, I'm about to write it. I've done all the hard yards.
Okay.
I've seen 1,000 plus.
Okay. Hold on to your seats then. It's coming. It's coming.
It's not coming out till May 2023.
Okay.
But anyway.
We'll warm people up anyway.
Yeah, indeed. It's a slow burn. Now, the idea came out of lockdown because, that first drastic lockdown was hardcore, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Fortunately, I live in the Chew Valley, so I'm slap bang between Bristol, Bath and Wells, the beautiful pastoral Chew Valley. It's about 9 miles south of Bristol. And, during the height of it, there was no cars on the road. It was just astonishing. You could hear birdsong. The one blessing was, I'm sure you recall, the weather was flipping brilliant.
Yeah, for that April was lovely.
April and May were absolutely belting. And I've always been a pretty decent botanist, but not, I can identify lots of plants, but I would go, oh, there's a speedwell and there's a violet, knowing that I was too lazy to get down on my hands and knees and work out exactly which species of speedwell and exactly which species of violet. So I started on my dog walks with my boy. I started taking my plant book with me. I bought this fantastic thing. It's like a holster. It's absolutely amazing. So basically, it's like a strap round, and it's like a holster where you can fit a book in. Because you need the plant book all the time. I don't need a bird book with birds because I know all the bird songs and all that stuff. So basically, I just take this holster. It's like a 6-shooter's holster that I pull out the book. Cool guy. And I carry that around with my eye lens, and I'd stop and get down and identify it's sweet violet, Viola odorata, or it's Viola reichenbachiana because it's got a creamy notch spur. And you know what? It was the first time I just loved it. And my boy was into it. I was testing him, and he'd identify a lot of the plants as well. And we raised some money. We did our during lockdown because a lot of charities lost a lot of money. So for Plant Life, we raised money, and we cycled around the Chew Valley. And my boy had to identify as many plants as possible in the morning. And I identified something, he's 8. He identified something like 45 different species of plants. It was amazing.
Wow.
I mean, kids are like sponges at that age.
Yeah, they are.
So we raised £45. I said we'd give him £1 for every, and his mum.
Right. That's the initial. That's the incentive.
He could identify. No, not give him. Give the charity.
Oh, sorry.
So we raised about 100 quid. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
For Plant Life, and he loves it. I mean, kids are always close to the ground. They've got a great visual acuity. He always finds the really interesting flowers, and that started me off. And I have all my best ideas, Jack, in the shower. I like to have a nice. I don't want to savoury, but I have a nice long hot shower in the morning, and that's when I do my getting mentally ready for the day ahead.
Okay.
And I've never read the book 50 Shades of Grey,
no.
but I had this idea. What about slightly ripping off the title and adding 950, changing the colour and making it 1000 Shades of Green? Why don't I try and see 1,000 different species in a year? So starting on January the 1st this year, and theoretically finishing December the 31st this year, I thought I'm going to make this a big botanical year, and I tried to see as many plants as possible. And I have broken 1,000. Obviously, things are slowing down massively because nothing's flowering. I mean, I've included things like grasses, sedges, rushes, ferns, and trees as well, because there's about 2,500. But I mean, it's full on. I thought the whole year I'm going to nowhere near it. I'm not going to go anywhere near it. And the problem I had is that the flowering season is quite short, really. Most stuff is flowering April to July. And I had to kind of hit the really, really amazing points at the right time. So I had to go to the Lizard Peninsula. I had to go to Breckland. I had to go to Teesdale. I had to go to the Highlands of Scotland. There were various places where iconic floral locations I had to see at the best time. And the main problem was, these things are really hard to find. Really hard to identify. So I would just, basically my knees just a knacker. I spent the whole summer just kneeling down, trying to see if the hairs would bifurcate on this weird Taraxacum. But I loved it. It was absolutely amazing. And I've become a brilliant botanist.
Well, I pitched a book idea, and I tried to get the title 50 Shades of Grayling, but the publisher hated it. They wouldn't go for it. So I see where you came from, and I like that you've sort of done a spin on that. So I'm glad that you've made it work. But they were like, no, we're not having that.
The title is the subtitle is 1,000 Years Ago, from groundsel, which I found flowering. Groundsel, you know groundsel.
You know what? I'm getting
like
better.
Ragwort.
Okay.
It's a weed like ragwort. I found that flowering on January the 1st. I did a New Year's Day plant hunt and found like 25 species flowering on New Year's Day. How cool is that?
Wow.
So like daisy, ragwort, yarrow, and all these plants. So the first plant I saw was groundsel, and the last one I saw was Goldilocks aster, which is a really rare plant that is halfway up a cliff on the side of the Mendips. And it was amazing. I mean, I got thrown off several sites for trespassing. I almost killed myself on a rock face. And I genuinely had spiritual moments of unbelievable serenity. I mean, I was up on top of Teesdale, I mean, not in the northeast of England. And I went up there and I met the warden. He showed me a few things. But I didn't want people to just go and say, there it is. There's no book in that. I wanted to use my skill and find a lot of the stuff. So he set me off on the general path. And I went looking for this plant called shrubby cinquefoil right on the top of the fells. No, actually, it was another plant called Dryas octopetalus. Is the Latin name? I can't remember the common name. I went looking for Dryas octopetala right at the top of Teesdale, and you know, I was up there, and it was just this amazing limestone scenery. I was quite high up on my own. There's no other person there. And I could hear golden plover going. And then I looked across and there was a ringed ring ouzel sat on a rock, just singing away. And it's like the mountain blackbird with its huge white. Yeah. And there's a ring ouzel there, and there was a golden plover singing there. And I just found the plant there. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
Is it harder to?
Oh, this is amazing.
Is it harder to write about plants than say birds or mammals? Because arguably, a book, I don't know, I probably won't get 1,000 birds, but whatever.
Do a lot.
Yeah. So yeah. Would you? Is it harder to write about plants then, or wax on lyrically about plants than like you just described then the golden plover and the ring ouzel? But how do you make a little plant in the ground sexy? How do you kind of make it?
I think with a lot of, and be it a TV program or be it any book you write, I mean, a lot of it is about the journey.
Yeah.
One of the very early plants that I wrote about was a plant called Gagia bohemica, which is early star of Bethlehem, and it's only found on one place in Britain, on Stanner Rocks in Radnorshire, and it was very early in the year, and I couldn't strictly go for it because of lockdown, but I was filming the Gadget Show, doing some stuff on wildlife gadgets a little bit further north. So I might have just possibly done a detour.
Okay.
To take in
on the way home.
On the way.
Yeah.
But I had a letter saying that I'm allowed to be out because Channel 5 were filming this thing. So anyway, and the bottom line is I eventually found it. I almost killed myself on the rock face, but it was just beautiful. It's just little tiny little yellow flower. Just I found one flower with imperfect petals on this halfway up this rock face in this really unusual place that I've never been to before. And it was just, I got on my hands and knees. It was, I'm not a religious person. I mean, in fact, I'm an atheist, but I kind of had a quasi-religious moment with this plant and got down with my eye lens and it was beautiful. It was like, it was so cold. It was March and this plant just like thrust out and it was like, how can you're amazing. How can you just survive these conditions? I was blown away by it. And what the plants do, which is really interesting, they tell you the reason why I think I'm a decent naturalist because I know lots about plants, and being a better botanist makes you a better naturalist. You're a better birder by knowing your plants. And just knowing that one plant, it gives you a portal into knowing about the history of Stannah rocks. And it's just that basically it's a little key that takes you into this wonderful world about why is this place, this weird place, right next to a road, the only place it survives in Britain? Well, it's down to kind of glaciology and it's down to the kind of peculiarities, the chemical makeup of the rock. I mean, and it just tells a brilliant story itself. So it's not going, here I am, singing and dance routine, but it's much more subtle than that. And it's much more beautiful.
So would that have been the rarest plant on the list? Or, I mean, I suppose, how do you quantify
just pretty
it?
much. I
Yeah.
saw a few absolute Bobby Dazzlers. I mean, I've seen, for example, I saw Teesdale Sandwort, which is kind of the dullest plant on the planet, but one of the rarest. I've seen endemic plants to Britain. I mean, we talk about Britain not having many and much endemic stuff. We've potentially got a dodgy bird in Scottish crossbill, but we've got endemic plants. I saw Scottish primrose, which is Primula scotica, which is confined to Scotland. And I've had some amazing stuff. I mean, sometimes I've got a lot of help from people who've been really amazing. So the botanical recorders, like in the Mendips where I live, there's fantastic plants. There's a wonderful lady called Helena Crouch, who is the most amazing botanist, and she's given me so much help. I'm jointly dedicating the book to her because she's flipping amazing. And she doesn't know that, so I bet she probably doesn't listen. Anyway, don't cut that out, cut that bit out. Lots of people have helped me on the way, and it's not just about the plant, it's about the location, because these plants are in amazing locations, Jack. And I've also used as a bit of a retrospective, I've gone botanizing not with top line experts who know exactly where the plant is, but I've gone with my old friends from Nottingham University, friends from Bangor University, old people I've met along the way. And it's just been a bit of a trip down memory lane. It's been fantastic. My old mate, Tim Sykes, who works for the Environment Agency, who knows loads about fish. He's a brilliant, brilliant fish person. He does loads and loads of
I
work
know the
on
name. I think I have spoke to Tim in the past, but yeah, I know the name.
He's done loads of water voles and southern damselflies and works on water quality in the whole of the New Forest in the south of England. And we went botanising together, and we're all mates from North Wales. And do you know what? It was just the best fun you can have keeping your clothes on. It was amazing. We're just the two of us. We're like pigs in clover. Yeah. And we found wild gladioli. We were like doing it, Chris Packham, just like thigh rub. It was brilliant. We just, I loved it. I just glad birds are dead to me. They're not dead to me, but they are kind of passion-wise dead to me.
Do you know Naturescape? You ever heard of that? The wildflower farm in Notts?
I have heard of Naturescape.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes up the road from me, but they sell a lot of stuff online. But in the spring and the summer, you can go and they'll have a big old field full of poppies or different. I'm trying to remember all the different wildflowers now. But anyway,
a lot of the annuals.
Yeah, most of the annuals. I think they do have some perennials as well. But it inspired me to turn my front lawn into a wildflower meadow. So I took all the grass up, put some clay down. It looks a bit sad at this time of year, if I'm honest. But during May, it was beautiful, and it was great just seeing all these different flowers. Devil's Bit scabious, oxeye daisy, knapweed. I'm exhausting my wildflower knowledge now.
Do you have yellow rattle, which is the most important plant?
Well, because I completely removed all the grass and I put the clay in, there was no grass for the yellow rattle to attach to. So it didn't. But when the grass comes through, I'm going to get some yellow rattle and
It's
try
only
and
a
get.
hemiparasite. It can photosynthesize anyway.
Oh, can
Um,
it? Ah,
yeah, but what it does, as you well know, it's a so it suppresses
that's
the
it.
aggressive grasses and keeps them down. But
That's right.
it's a beautiful wildflower. It's really easy to plant. You get the seeds, and just in November when there's like now when it's really crappy and there's no, they just need the seeds stamping into bare mud. I've got loads in my back garden.
Ah,
Nice.
well, I've tried some around because I've got a pond in my back garden, and what I've done this year is mowed the lawn around that really short, and then I've just plugged some wildflowers into that. But I've also put yellow rattle. Fingers crossed that'll kind of attach itself to that and be a bit more. Because I just left. Someone said, "Oh, let the grass grow long, and there'll be loads of wildflowers in it." So I just let the lawn grow long, and it was just long grass. It was just what right,
Yeah.
not if there's any grass lovers out there. I don't want to offend them, but it was just long grass, and there wasn't a lot. The frogs liked it. There were frogs in there, but that was about it. And I thought,
But also good for the butterflies. All the brown butterflies like meadow brown, ringlet, they'll all fit. All the larvae feed on grasses.
oh,
But yeah,
do
you want
they?
to get some wildflowers in there, absolutely.
Yeah,
And making a meadow is really, really difficult.
yeah, it is because I think people
Digging a
think
pond is easy.
yeah, it's not, is it? You think, oh, just put the seeds down and off you go. It's a lot of maintenance, isn't it? Really, you got to mow it and
You've
you've
got
got
to
to
drive that fertility down. It's the
Mm,
opposite of a flower bed where you're sticking the manure on.
yeah,
Making a wildflower meadow is really difficult.
yeah, but it's rewarding, I guess, in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, when you see the
Yeah,
kind of butterflies skipping over and grasshoppers doing their business, and yes,
yeah.
I love meadows. Are probably my favourite
Have you
habitat.
got a little meadow in your? I think I actually have got one of your books, Mike. What's it? My garden and other animals. So I should know
Yes.
because I've got your book. But have you got a wildflower patch in your garden? You've got
I
anything like that?
have. It's looking a
Yeah,
bit sad at the moment, like
yeah.
yours. We need to get out in it because I've been away, and Christina, my wife, has been busy.
Mm.
She's a gardener, so she's doing other people's gardens. Hasn't got time to do our own. But we're going to get in the next few days and just tidy it up for Christmas. But yeah, we've got a decent wildflower meadow.
Okay.
It could be better at the moment. I need to kind of just really, really shore all the grass off at the moment
Yeah.
and set it for the next. It looks really good in spring. Got a lot of primroses. We've got a really good area, loads of fritillaries as well. So it's lovely, but it could be better.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? So obviously the book's not out yet. When it is, presumably the best place to go is have a look on your social media or website or whatnot when it's been.
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
hammering social media.
You heard it here first. In 2 years' time, it'll be out.
Yes, it'll be what, a year and a half. I
Year and a
suppose.
half.
Yeah.
Year and a half.
I've got to write it, but I've
Yeah.
got all my notes and I've got all my photographs and all that kind of stuff. And as photographs, going to be my fairly awful photographs in it. And my wife Christine does a lot of illustrations. So she's going to do some illustrated chapter headings. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into the writing project. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Brilliant. No worries. Well, look, I think that brings us to more or less the end of it. But thanks for coming on, Mike. And yeah, look forward to picking a copy of the book up.
Well, my absolute pleasure, Jack. Good luck with the podcast and have a fantastic time at the Grandson Hotel. I presume you're giving lectures up there, are you?
Yeah. So yeah, a couple of talks and walks. And I've never actually been to the places I'm walking. So they were like, just kind of like, well, I don't know the place. So we'll find some wildlife. We'll fumble our way through it. It'll be good
You'll
fun.
be fine.
Yeah,
It'll be
it'll be
brilliant.
good. Nice one,
Take it
mate.
easy, mate. I'll see you on the other side.
Take care. Bye.